Every year, ordinary people win life-changing fortunes. Hundreds of millions of dollars dropped into the laps of teachers, truck drivers, and retirees overnight. But instead of yachts and mansions, some of these winners spent their money on things so bizarre, so unhinged, so completely unexpected, that even the people closest to them thought they'd lost their minds. So the real question is, what does unlimited money reveal about who a person truly is? Meet David Edwards. In 2001, David was living in a one-bedroom apartment in Kentucky, surviving on odd jobs, barely scraping together enough money for groceries. He drove a car that broke down more than it ran. He wore the same 3 shirts on rotation. On a Tuesday morning in August, he stopped at a gas station and bought a Powerball ticket almost as an afterthought. He nearly forgot about it until he checked the numbers 2 days later on a crumpled piece of paper at his kitchen table. He had won $27 million within 48 hours. David's entire world flipped upside down. The phone started ringing before he even cashed the check. Friends he hadn't heard from in years. Distant cousins he barely remembered. Strangers with business ideas. Everyone wanted a piece. But David didn't care about any of that. Because David had a list. A long, strange, deeply personal list of things he had always wanted. And now, for the first time in his life, nothing on that list was out of reach. So what was the very first thing David bought? Not a house. Not a car. Not a vacation. He bought a $1.9 million fiber optics company that he had absolutely zero experience running. Within months, it was gone. Every penny. But that was just the beginning. Because after the company came, the purchases that made people stop and stare. The ones that made his neighbors talk. The ones that would eventually make headlines across the country. Before we get into the full list of the most ridiculous things lottery winners ever spent their money on, you need to understand something important. These weren't stupid people. They weren't careless people. They were ordinary people who suddenly had extraordinary power, and what they chose to do with that power will surprise you, shock you, and honestly make you laugh out loud. Starting with number 1. Jack Whitaker won $314 million in 2002, the largest single-ticket lottery jackpot in American history at the time. He was already a successful contractor worth about $17 million before he won. So when people heard what he spent his money on first, they didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Jack walked into a strip club and left a $50,000 tip. Not for a private show, not for a special experience. Just a tip. Left it on the table and walked out like he'd dropped a quarter in a parking meter. But Jack was just getting warmed up. Over the next few months, he bought an entire wardrobe of custom suits he never wore, a collection of exotic birds that required a full-time keeper, and a custom-built garage just to store cars he never drove. His house started looking less like a home and more like a storage unit for expensive things nobody needed. People close to him started whispering. His wife looked the other way. And Jack just kept spending. Then there was Callie Rogers from the UK. She was just 16 years old when she won £1.9 million in 2003. Still a teenager. Still figuring out who she was. And suddenly, she had more money than most people see in a lifetime. Her first major purchase was $500,000 worth of plastic surgery before her 18th birthday. Her second was designer clothes, so many that she needed 2 extra bedrooms just to store them all. By the time she was 20, more than half her winnings were completely gone. Here's what's wild. Both Jack and Callie came from completely different backgrounds, different countries, different ages, different lives. But they made the same mistake. They spent money on things that felt good in the moment, but meant nothing a year later. The suits collected dust. The clothes went out of style. The birds needed feeding long after the excitement wore off. And the bills kept coming regardless. Now those stories are funny, in a sad kind of way. But this next winner takes things to a level that is genuinely hard to believe. A man from Florida won just under $30 million and spent a significant chunk of it on something so specific, so strange, so completely unnecessary that when you hear it, you will have one very simple question: why? And the answer is even more bizarre than the purchase itself. His name was William Post, and he won $16.2 million in the Pennsylvania lottery in 1988. Within 3 months, he had spent over $500,000. Not on investments, not on property. On a restaurant he had no idea how to run, a used car lot he knew nothing about, and a plane he didn't know how to fly. He just bought things because he could. Because for the first time in his life, the word no didn't apply to him anymore. But the restaurant failed, the car lot failed, the plane sat in a field collecting rust, and William, who had been living on food stamps just months before winning, found himself drowning in debt within a year. He borrowed money against his winnings. He fought with his family over cash constantly. His own brother hired someone to kill him over the fortune. William later said winning the lottery was the worst thing that ever happened to him. He died in 2006, nearly broke. That is the emotional center of this whole story, because every ridiculous purchase you have heard so far had a real cost. Not just in dollars, in relationships, in peace of mind, in years of life spent stressed, isolated, and worse off than before the winning ticket ever got scratched. The money didn't change who these people were. It just turned up the volume on everything already inside them. And then there was Denise Rossi from California. She won $1.3 million in 1996 and immediately filed for divorce from her husband of 25 years without telling him why. She hid the winnings completely, didn't mention a single dollar. A court later ordered her to hand over every cent of the winnings to her ex-husband as punishment for hiding it. She lost it all, not by spending it, but by trying to keep it secret from the one person she had spent her whole life with. The purchases get wilder. The consequences get heavier. And somehow, the people get more relatable the deeper you go into these stories. Because none of them set out to ruin their lives. They just followed impulses that most of us have had too. They just happened to have millions of dollars when those impulses showed up. And that brings us to the #1 most ridiculous lottery purchase ever made. And trust us, nothing you have heard so far comes close. His name was Michael Carroll, and he was 19 years old when he won £9.7 million in the UK lottery in 2002. He was a garbage collector. He wore an ankle tag for a criminal conviction when he collected his check. And within 8 years, every single pound was gone. But it wasn't the parties that made headlines. It wasn't the drugs or the cars or the mansions. It was one specific purchase that people still talk about today. Michael Carroll spent a significant portion of his fortune turning his entire backyard into a private demolition derby track. Not a small one. A full-sized, professionally built destruction course where he and his friends would smash cars into each other for fun. He spent an estimated £400,000 on cars alone just to destroy them, not to drive them, not to collect them, to watch them get crushed into scrap metal on a Tuesday afternoon. He would buy luxury vehicles, line them up, and demolish them one by one while drinking with his friends in lawn chairs. Rolls Royces, BMWs, Mercedes, bought in the morning, destroyed by sunset. Neighbors called the police so many times that local authorities eventually gave up responding. The noise was constant, the wreckage piled up, and Michael smiled through all of it because for the first time in his life, he could do something so ridiculously, pointlessly, gloriously wasteful that no one could stop him. By 2010, he was completely broke. He went back to work as a garbage collector, the same job he had before the ticket, the same wage, the same hours. When a reporter asked if he had any regrets, he said no. He he said he had the time of his life. And somehow, that answer is both the saddest and the most honest thing any lottery winner has ever said out loud. So here's the real question we promised you at the start. What does unlimited money reveal about who a person truly is? Based on every story in this video, the answer seems to be this. It reveals exactly what they were already thinking about when the money wasn't there. The dreams, the impulses, the grudges, the fears. Money doesn't create character. It just removes every excuse not to act on whatever was already inside you. So what would your list look like? Drop it in the comments below and subscribe, because next time the stories get even wilder.